Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Whilst the Labour frontbench...
Just say, you might say it's the way he tells them, but it might be worse. It's the way I tell them. Lee Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our reform-led councils have already identified savings of over £330 million in the first 6 months. And the Prime Minister may shake his head propped up by these gullible backbenchers, but here's the challenge. Will he guarantee, will he ensure that all the cancelled elections from this year and the proposed local elections for next year will go ahead in May 2026? Go on, be a man.
When a sitting MP calls the Prime Minister a lizard on live television, the nation stops and stares. Lee Anderson didn't whisper, he didn't hedge, he went full throttle, and suddenly Britain erupted. Was this just political theatre, or a raw exposure of the rot beneath Westminster's polished veneer? Could a former miner from Ashfield really shred decades of political decorum in a single broadcast? And if the Prime Minister can be compared to a reptile, what does that reveal about the state of leadership? And who is truly running the country behind the scenes?
Stand-up comedy. Mr. Speaker, he talks about dog whistle. Last week, his leader said he didn't have time to condemn the racist comments of his fellow MP for Runcorn. He also said he didn't have time to condemn his party calling children in care evil. He didn't have time. I wonder if he can ask his leader next door to him whether he's got time for his explanation for the stories in today's papers.
This wasn't just criticism, it was warfare. A former miner from Ashfield, a man who knows struggle firsthand, tore through the polished veneer of the establishment one sentence at a time. And whether you cheered or recoiled in disbelief, one thing was undeniable: you could not look away. This is a story of rebellion, shock, and chaos, of British politics spinning on its axis. And it all began on the unfiltered stage of the Daily Espresso Show.
They're not smashing the games, they're smashing all the records. That's what they're doing. It's an absolute disgrace what's happening in this country. We can't protect our own borders. And then he has the cheek, the gall, to talk about the coalition of the willing to protect Ukraine's borders. Coalition of the willing, 38 countries, 2 have offered to put troops in Ukraine to keep the peace. He can't even protect our own borders. The man's a joke, he needs to resign. Well, just control your borders. So you're not coming in. It's as simple as that. You know, we have this nonsense.
Platforms like this are usually avoided by politicians. Too raw, too unpredictable, too dangerous. But Anderson didn't just walk in, he charged. Within minutes, he dropped a verbal bomb that set social media ablaze, blunt words, merciless tone, and a target unmistakable. A sitting Prime Minister reduced to reptilian imagery in the public eye. Suddenly, everyone was asking the same question. Could it be true? Could the man leading Britain really be as cold, distant and unrelatable as Anderson claimed?
Weeks ago, from that dispatch box, the Minister for Rural Affairs said that he'd been congratulated by a farmer over the introduction of the inheritance tax. Now, I think this farmer must have been a cannabis farmer, because just yesterday we had 10,000 farmers on Whitehall protesting against this madcap decision. So does the Deputy Prime Minister agree with me that this decision should be thrown in the trash can along with Rachel from Accounts' CV?
The social media reaction was immediate. Twitter trended, news outlets scrambled, and the political establishment panicked. Because Anderson didn't just insult Starmer, he voiced what millions had been thinking in private. He painted a portrait of a leader whose eyes held nothing, no warmth, no empathy, no connection to ordinary people, a man who speaks of the public, never with them. And he didn't stop there.
I come to this chamber, Mr. Speaker, every week to ask sensible questions, and I expect sensible answers. But all I get is glazed expressions and waffle from the opposite benches. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to ask the Prime Minister a very simple question on behalf of all the net zero sceptics. If we became net zero tomorrow, by how much would it reduce the Earth's temperature by? Simple question.
Then came the Dalek comparison. Anyone familiar knows Daleks are the ultimate villains from Doctor Who. Emotionless, merciless, robotic killers. Anderson claimed Starmer's speech mirrored these same qualities. Monotone, cold, detached, incapable of human warmth. When was the last time his words made you feel seen or understood, personal or inspiring? For most, the answer is never, because he communicates not like us, but like the establishment expects. Anderson knew it. The Red Wall knew it. Britain knew it. But he didn't stop there. He introduced the pub test. His commentary isn't just memes or viral clips. It's a critique of policy, ideology, and the divides threatening to split Britain apart. Take net zero. Anderson asked the question every politician avoids. If Britain reached net zero tomorrow, how much would global temperatures actually drop? Silence followed. Because the truth is inconvenient, the effect is negligible, almost imperceptible, yet the cost is astronomical. Families face impossible choices, energy bills skyrocket, and communities reliant on industries suffer, while the elite jet off to international summits, applauding their own virtue, while ordinary citizens shoulder the burden.
This net zero madness coming from this place is truly staggering. Bear in mind, this power station used to burn coal from a coal mine from less than 20 miles away. We're now transporting wood from 3,000 miles away. We're paying over £10 billion in subsidies for this power station, and it's producing 4 times more CO2 than a coal-fired power station. So could the Minister explain to me how this is contributing towards net zero?
Immigration became another flashpoint for Anderson's uncompromising stance. Turn back boats the same day they arrive, with no processing delays or legal red tape. And if arrivals persist, relocate them to remote islands or former colonies. His logic is simple. Make Britain an unappealing target. A. Nation that enforces its borders without compromise. Controversial, undoubtedly. Effective, that is for the public to decide. March 2024 marked a turning point. Anderson didn't just criticise the Conservative Party, he left it entirely. This is the stark contrast at the heart of British politics today. Lee Anderson, forged in coal mines and unions, speaking the language of working people. Starmer, a former human rights lawyer, rooted in courtrooms and corridors of power. One speaks of empathy and shared experience, the other of policy through technocratic detachment, and the tension between these worlds is tearing the political landscape apart. The BBC and mainstream outlets struggle to keep up. Anderson deliberately avoids controlled environments, shunning panels and sanitised interviews in favour of YouTube, podcasts and unfiltered media, where he can speak directly to the people without gatekeepers or spin. And it's working. Britons are exhausted by performative politics, tired of polished speeches with no substance. They want honesty, rawness, someone who will articulate what many are thinking but are too polite or fearful to say.
Under your chairship, and let's be honest, if this petition was likely to trigger a general election, I doubt very much whether some of my former colleagues would be in the room today, because many of them would actually lose their seats. Well, we all make mistakes. We all make mistakes. And when we make mistakes, we should hold our hands up and say, sorry. And wherever I go in this country, and I travel a lot around this country every week, I get people saying to me that they're sorry. Sorry.
Anderson's approach has turned him into both a meme and a megaphone, reducing the Prime Minister in public imagination to a cold reptilian caricature, a figure incapable of human connection. The effectiveness of this tactic is undeniable. In the social media age, whoever frames the story controls perception, and Anderson has seized that narrative with ruthless efficiency. But this isn't just Anderson versus Starmer, it's a question of accountability. Will British politicians start listening to the people who elect them? Will ordinary citizens' frustrations finally break through Westminster's polished walls? Anderson's rise reflects a larger trend. Voters demanding honesty, directness, recognition, and in this new era, the establishment has lost its grip. Polite disagreement, scripted debates, carefully curated speeches are losing power. Raw, unfiltered communication is replacing them, and Lee Anderson is at the forefront. Whether you agree with him or not, British politics has changed. The boundaries have shifted, the norms rewritten before our eyes. In the end, this isn't just entertainment or viral media, it's a reflection of Britain itself, a nation wrestling with its identity, leadership, and future. Anderson has tapped into the anxieties, frustrations, and cynicism many feel but few express, holding a mirror to the establishment and asking one simple question: who really serves the people?
This is the biggest scandal in British politics for over 1 century. And I would predict pretty confidently, I said this yesterday, but I stick by it, I predict that Morgan McSweeney, the chief advisor, will be gone pretty quickly. I don't know how long Starmer will last as Prime Minister. Indeed, I'm very worried about it.
And as the dust settles, one question remains for every citizen watching. Do you see Lee Anderson as a hero, a populist, or a necessary disruptor exposing the cracks in a system that has long ignored its citizens? The answer may define the future of British politics for years to come, because a former miner from Ashfield has just obliterated the Prime Minister on live television, called him a lizard, likened his speech to a Dalek dialect, and exposed the emptiness at the heart of Westminster. Britain is watching, not as spectators, but as participants. This is your politics, your voice, your democracy in action. The battle lines are drawn, and the war for the soul of British politics has begun. But the story doesn't end with insults or clever metaphors. Anderson unmasked the deeper fault lines tearing British politics apart. His rise is a symptom of frustration, a revolt against the polite, measured language of political elites. He speaks plainly, directly, without compromise. His words carry weight because they're rooted in lived experience. He's not a career politician, polishing a resume or calculating every syllable for sound bites. He's a former miner, a man who has worked with his hands, lived through hardship, and understands the struggles of everyday people in a way Starmer, for all his legal credentials, never can. And that contrast is devastatingly clear.
Net zero is of course not easy, but it's a huge opportunity to boost our growth, our jobs and our economy. And so he knows my views on that. But you know, he complains that our better ideas if they stop fawning over Putin. And I understand the member for Clacton wants to be Prime Minister. He can't even lead a party that fits in the back of a taxi.
Starmer, after all, is a man of the courtroom. His career built on defending complex legal arguments, navigating bureaucracies, and representing causes often more symbolic than tangible. He speaks with precision, yes, but his words lack warmth, relatability, and the human element that turns policy into empathy. Anderson seized on this gap and exploited it masterfully, not just criticising, but reframing Starmer entirely, turning him into a symbol of everything working class Britain feels disconnected from. And it isn't just rhetoric, policy is at the heart of this confrontation. Take energy and net zero targets. Anderson called out the hypocrisy of climate policy designed more for optics than impact. The net zero agenda, hailed as Britain's path to environmental responsibility, comes with devastating costs: soaring energy bills, industrial decline, and hardship for ordinary families, while elites jet off to international conferences, praised for virtue signalling as households struggle to heat and power their homes. Anderson's framing is simple and effective. Policy without human consideration is meaningless. Immigration policy is another arena where he draws a stark, uncompromising line, advocating immediate returns for those attempting illegal crossings, no processing centres, no extended legal wrangling, just action. And for persistent arrivals, relocation to remote islands or other inhospitable territories. A deterrent unmistakable, controversial certainly, but it speaks to a broader principle. Borders matter, rules matter, and Britain cannot afford to project weakness under pressure.